Check one, two. All right. I'm live for another Sunday. Another Sunday, I'm live. And I'm doing this Sunday live broadcasting. So, check one. Let me see. Did my signal? Okay. Just make sure I still got vocal signal. Okay. All right. Wanted to talk about recording and mixing. I don't want to talk too much about world stuff. I know we're in a heated, debated um election right now, but we're going to talk about recording and mixing. So I'm doing my weekly Sunday broadcast. So as people start to come in and tune in to um, the weekly broadcast this week, just want to talk about the recording process first, and then I don't get into a lot of mixing because everyone mix the way they like to mix, and mixing music is very subjective. So I don't really get into a lot of mixing. I get into more of just making, the recording process and the editing process and just how DAWs work and things like that. But mixing is kind of subjective. But the reason why I make a lot of my videos sometime on is I want maybe people that are not aware to do their recordings or their tracks. And people can record their music and their tracks any way they want. Whatever music genre. It could be rock. It doesn't matter. It could be country, hip hop, EDM, trap. My end goal to help people, from what I know, is to try to get their mixes and their music to sound commercial recording studio, to compete with commercial studio, but by still being able to do this at home. The thing that I've always, I wish DAW companies were better at. I wish DAW companies were better at getting people to learn their DAW products better. I know that some DAWs, they have like a help section, but a lot of times it takes a lot of YouTubers to make DAW tutorials. It doesn't matter if it's Pro Tools, Logic, Cakewalk, Ableton Live, Studio One. It doesn't really matter which DAW, but I don't think those companies do a good enough job. I think some companies, when I see tutorials on some of these DAWs, they're more like, sometimes they're tips and tricks that a person can learn from little editing things in a DAW like Studio One, and there might be some tools in there that they talk about, but I don't never really see DAWs that really talks the whole ins and out of how to really make someone that's doing their recording in that DAW. They don't really talk about the portion that's going to make it sound like a commercial industry standard record. Some people know to do this, just from experience. Some people don't, and so that's the reason why I try to do it on my channel, to try to help people. So what I'm saying is, with this podcast on recording and mixing, is this: to make your, the one thing about that is unknown is a lot of times when people buy software, a DAW, the mixer, which is the console, something like this, the mixer is being built as you build your tracks. But what it doesn't do, except there's software like Reason Studio or Harrison Mixbus that already have a built mixer for you. especially if you got the Harrison Mix Bus 32C. The mix is already completely built, except for a few things you have to add, and you might have to add in some extra bus channels, whatever. They already have bus channels built, things like that. But Studio One, Pro Tools, Logic, they don't build. They just only build the channels as you build your tracks, and I wish they would get these companies would do a better job of saying, look, here's how to really build the DAW to make it compete with a commercial studio. Because if you take a person that's been working at a commercial studio and they know they've been working on a console, like an analog console, it doesn't matter if it's like this Allen Heath, or they've been working on an SSL or a Neve or one of those high-end consoles. And the workflow of those consoles, they usually generally know to do that in a DAW as well. So that's why some of these guys know how to get pretty much the same sound working in the box. But there are some people that never got an opportunity to work in a commercial studio. So they don't know, they learn to work in the tracking portion. They build their tracks and they'll start doing all the editing on the tracks and start adding their plugins on the tracks. And then they say, well, my mixes, it still don't sound competitive to the big studios. Well, the two things that most people forget to do or probably don't know how to do in their DAW, especially when they go from their tracking window to the mixer, is to build auxiliary and bus channels. That's really generally it, because the DAWs already make your master. They already built the master bus. They already started, even if you have one track. So if you go to your mixer windows, you'll have one channel and you'll have the master track, the master bus. They automatically do that by default. So, oh, hey, how's it going, DL? Welcome. I'm doing good. I'm just talking about recording and mixing today. So appreciate it. Thanks for the likes. Thanks everyone for giving me the likes. Like I said, I'm just talking about recording and mixing. I started this audio engineering class because I'm like, well, let me teach people some basics on audio engineering so you don't have to pay $50,000 for it. I don't even feel like that a person should pay $20,000 for audio engineering when it's free. It's just so available out there. But I don't, it's kind of like when some people that are trying to learn audio engineering, they're trying to find the right channels to learn audio engineering. That's why I talk about signal flow and gear and tools like that, because those are the tools that we use, right? So on the recording portion, I think that if you're working, if you're working in your DAW, that's just usually what people forget to do. They forget to set, or they don't know to do this, to create some auxiliary tracks and some bus tracks. And what happens is the way these DAWs are programmed, they're programmed to work like an actual console, whether it's an analog console or even digital, because digital consoles, analog consoles, and a digital mixer in your DAW, they all work the same. But a lot of people, if you never worked on a console, you would never know to do this. You would never know about creating bus tracks and creating and using auxiliaries and all that. So we got a few comments coming in. So let me read some comments. I see Boss One. Okay, welcome, Boss One. Welcome to my weekly podcast. So you're asking, can you record, then take music to mix and master studio? You can. You can. But the thing is, your DAW, when it comes to mix and mastering, well, if you are not good at mixing and mastering, then it probably would be wise to take it to someone who knows how to do it. So, hey, Andre, good evening. Good evening as well. Welcome. And then I got a concrete game. I am stoked on the lessons, Mark. You're welcome. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Because I like I don't know if y'all know this, but a lot of times when people watch the videos, or whenever people watch the channel, unless people comment, I don't know who's watching. All I see is a number count. I can see the amount of people that's watched the video. And if I go to the analytics, it kind of give me the general idea of different parts of the country of who's watching, but I don't know who's watching unless people comment. And that's the only way I would know who's watching the channel. So, but getting back to the recording portion, like let's say, so in the recording, I think with the way we record today, especially in our home studios, is everyone's pretty much recording at home now. So, you remember when it comes to commercial studios, the end goal for any commercial pro level commercial studio, no matter how they present it, no matter what kind of studio tour that they're going to present, what kind of artists that went to that recording studio, the end result is for them to make money, period. And they're going to charge by the hour. So, and it may seem, I'll use Patchwork out of Atlanta as an example. I think Patchwork may charge, it depends. They can go anywhere from $75, maybe $150, whatever, an hour or whatever. But if you think about that for a second, $150 an hour for this recording studio, you multiply that by 10 hours for that day, just that day. That's $1,500. So $150, you need a 10-hour, and sometimes just to record a full-fledged project, especially with artists and a band and you got session musicians and all that, 10 hours fly by super fast. Before you know it, 3, 4, 5, maybe 2 weeks. Well, you multiply 1,500 times 10 days. Now we're up to $15,000. You can see, I don't know about y'all, but most of us just don't have $15,000 just laying around. I don't know. I don't have $15,000 just laying around like that. I just don't. So economically, it's usually more feasible to record at home. And generally, everyone's got pretty much a DAW that they're going to like. I'm not biased. Some people are going to prefer some DAWs over others. You got people that love Pro Tools. You got people that like Studio One. Some people like Logic. They all work, so that's why I'm not biased. And then, if you really learn the tools of these DAWs, they can be really, really powerful. And then sometimes when you learn all the tools, you'll find out that some DAWs are a little bit more limited than other DAWs. But we're all recording at home because let's face it, it is so much easier just to walk into your house, whatever you got your setup at. It's just easier to walk to that part of the room anytime you want. You ain't got to book your own home studio. You ain't got to book it. I think that's the beauty of reason why everyone loves to be able to do this at home, because it doesn't cost you other than the time and what it costs for you to invest in the gear that you're going to use. That's the great thing about it. That's what I love about working in a home recording studio, because I ain't got to worry about booking it. I ain't got to leave. I can come up here at 3 o'clock in the morning if I want to. I think that's the best thing ever. Welcome, Olga Picks. Welcome to the am I saying that right? Because some people's names, I got Ogla Picks. Just make sure I don't want to butcher people's name, the names of their names. So just make sure, give me a thumbs up if I'm pronouncing your if I'm mispronouncing your name. So, I welcome Saint Nick. He says, what's my DAW choice? I like a few of them, but my number one DAW that I like the most, even though it can have, you know, is Cakewalk. I've been using Cakewalk since '94. And I'll tell you why I like Cakewalk the most out of all the DAWs. It's because of the Pro channel. When you in your mixer window, the Pro channel's got so much going on that you don't even have to use plugins sometimes. You can use everything that comes just in the mixer. Because it comes with choices of compressors, EQ, saturation. I mean, and then I like the way when you create your auxiliary tracks and your bus tracks, it sets it up the way I like it. That's why. Plus, I'm familiar with the way you can edit in Cakewalk. My second favorite one would be Studio One because it's so easy for me to get going in Studio One like this. Um, Pro Tools can be a learning curve. FL Studio is a learning curve to me. Ableton Live is pretty decent. But that's pretty much Cakewalk is my DAW choice. It's the first one I pick. Then I go from there. So okay, let's see. Okay, tell me how to pronounce it. He said you can pronounce it like OGL picks. Okay, OGL picks. OGL picks. Okay, OGL picks. Okay, gotcha. Oscar. Okay, actually, that's easier, Oscar. So I'm gonna call you Oscar. That's just easier. I'll remember that to call you Oscar. And then we got D83 says Studio One gang. Some people like Studio One. Um, I'm a I for me on DAWs, a lot of DAWs, a lot of people like DAWs because how you can get in there and start recording your tracks, how you can edit your tracks, and all the functions that you can do in your DAWs in that portion when you open up your DAW to start doing all your music. A lot of people love choose a DAW based on the workflow of that. Um, for me, I need a DAW that gives me a mixer that's going to look and function or give me all the functions like a real analog console. That's just me because I started on analog consoles. I still use analog consoles. So the mixer in the DAW needs to give me options like an analog console. And some of those features, like even the gain input on the channel, are mixing on are is miss is what blah 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 is missing on certain DAWs, like the trim input and all that. And I need to have some of those options because that's just the way I work. So for other people, that doesn't bother other people when they're working with their DAW. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter for me. I need that workflow because I'm used to way real consoles, the preamp section, EQ section. You have your master channel, your ability to create bus channels and be able to create auxiliary channels and be able to input inserts and sends and things like that. I need that flow because technically that's how they program the mixers to actually work in DAWs. Most people don't know that, but that's true. Cedille says, I like Cakewalk and Reason Studio combination when Reason Studio had Rewire. And it says, I guess most people export their stem tracks out of Reason and import them into their DAW. But I like here's the thing. Most of the time for me, no matter what DAW that I'm working in, I work completely in that DAW. I think the way Reason, I'll go back to Reason Studio as an example, the way they finally built the mixer is basically emulating an SSL console. There's a few features missing, but pretty much like an SSL console, right? Because of that, because I know how the inserts work on SS and how the plugins work in Reason, I really don't need to export out. And the way I record my tracks doesn't require a ton of editing. Um, but um, but some people do that. They like one DAW for the creation portion, but then they like other DAWs for the mixing portion. Like some people record in Logic, transfer all the files out of Logic and go into Pro Tools. But to me personally, and I've said this in videos, and probably some people got mad, if you really master Logic, even on the mixing console portion, you really don't need to go out of Logic to do the mixing. Because Logic has the ability to create, not only does it create the channels, you can create your auxiliary and your buses, and you can do inserts. The same way if you was working on a console in real life, and you be working and you would insert, of course, in a real console, we just patch it into a patch bay. But you would patch in on channels like you would. So Logic can do that. Logic can make auxiliaries. You can put all your reverbs and delays on auxiliaries. You can also create auxiliary and export it out of your interface to go to create headphone mixes and everything else. Logic can do that. So I don't really see the benefit of transferring out of Pro Tools just to go, out of Logic to go into Pro Tools when Logic can do the same thing as far as mixing that Pro Tools can. It's just that Pro Tools and Logic's mixer console looks a little different. And I think even with Luna, they're designing, if you ever look at these mixing consoles, that's why, they have the faders and the pan knobs, and the knobs look like knobs and look like faders. And so it just really depends. Matty 2 says your audio is cutting in. Okay, let me make sure. Is it cutting in and out for everybody else? I got to make sure that the audio's, because it could be the audio cutting in and out. Some people will listen to, but is my audio cutting in? Everyone let me know if the audio is cutting in and out. Some people say they can hear me perfectly. I don't know, because I don't know. Okay, so Dio says, no, your audio hasn't cut out for me. Sounds good here. So Matty 2 has to check your connection. And so, because it could be, everyone else said it sounds good. Okay, better now. Okay, good. Okay, so, what was? Let me see. So let me go with Dio posted something that says, "Oh, you took it out." I was about to read. Okay, you took your messages off. Okay, all right. So, generally, what they've done with these D8, okay, sound perfect, good. Okay, generally, what they've done with these DAWs is they program these mixing consoles to work like a real console. So if you build auxiliary tracks and start doing sound on tracks, they will function the same way if you work on a real console with real auxiliary tracks. If you build your bus and do things on your bus groups as well, they will function just like they will on a real console. The thing is, when you're listening to a real console, even when you're listening through the monitors, you're actually listening to the master bus, because everything is still routing to your final master bus, your final master, your main. Everything is going through that unless you directly send outputs out of the board. The same way if you got an interface that can do outputs from it, then you will hear different outputs from that. But if you're working generally on the console, like for one like this one, everything's routing to the master bus. So when I'm listening to something and I know it's coming out of my master, it's going to translate based on what I'm hearing from the speakers when I make a mix. Ryan says, welcome, Ryan. I want to hear your mix off the board. I am going to do that. I am going to make it some music so you can hear what it sounds like coming off this console. One way to tell is if you want to kind of hear what this console kind of sounds like, and of course I'm using the Antelope Orion interface, is I did a video a while back. Where I was talking about the Christmas. We was going to release it last year, but we're actually going to release it this year. And you'll get a chance to hear the console stuff. You can go find a video that says, I think it says Christmas release or something like that. And you can see the video where one of the artists I'm working with was recording. I'll let you kind of hear the raw, her singing through the mic over there. And then finally you get a little taste of what it sounds like. And so that's, give you a taste of it. But I'm going to do a full-fledged track so you can hear what it sounds like. But all I can tell you, if people are still wondering, what does it sound like? It's the same way as if you went and listened to someone that recorded at any commercial studio that had a console. If you went to, if someone recorded at East West or Capitol Studios or Nashville, maybe Blackbird in Nashville, and wonder how it came out. Well, if you listen to records that come out of those studios, it's the same thing. I'm doing the same concept. So it pretty much sounds generally the same like that. That's the best way I can describe that. And that's the reason why I like working this way, because it comes out sounding like that. So let me see what else you got. Dio says, when you record in Reason, you record vocals, VST, and external keyboards and mix and master the whole song in Reason Studio. Yes. I don't master I record and mix in no matter what DAW that I'm using. I just mix and record in that DAW. I master through other software like Wavelab and T-Rax. That's what I master with. And so then you use Cakewalk that day. You do all the work in Cakewalk. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, that was just like the one I did the other day with, doing it, mixing, using some plugins in Cakewalk was just for demonstration purposes only. Some people was like, some people had wrote something about compression. I was like, no, it wasn't the point of trying to get this ready mix, because I would never do a song that quick in 30 minutes. It takes a lot longer. First, I would have a full-fledged song, an actual, not just an 8-bar loop. I would have a full-fledged song. And then I would be editing to find imperfection, maybe some bad notes or stuff or things like that. But other than that, no, I was just standing up for demonstration how, and that was just I think 3 or 4 plugins. It wasn't a whole lot. So it says, Mag 2 says, you're asking any advice for a good mic for rock vocals that isn't too bright. I'm on the hunt. What is your budget? Because you don't have to spend $1,000. You can spend for one, you can spend a couple $100 like on a Rode NT1 as an example. You have to look at you can try for example, because sometimes here's the thing. When it comes to vocals, sometimes a condenser mic isn't always the solution. Sometimes if you want something that can really take a lot of high end or a lot of pressure, SPL, a lot of what's the word? I'm losing my thought right now. Anyhow, a dynamic mic sometimes is perfect for heavy, hard hitting vocals. A dynamic mic, it's the same, like, you believe it or not, you may, for a rock, an SM, somebody wrote SM7, or even an SM58, a dynamic mic might be more, because condenser mics are really, really sensitive. And a lot of B's and P's can be the hard explosives on the mic. You might not want that hard B's and P's and all that. Even though you can have a really good compressor and a really good preamp, You might need to use a dynamic for some hard vocals, like a rock, like for rock, versus something that might be over, like a condenser mic. So, oh yeah. So let me see what else we got going on. I'll see. Dio says, I want to see how you use the specialty plugins in your tracks and whether you put them on individual track buses or inserts and stuff, stuff like glitch, effects, filter. Okay, I can even talk how I would do this on channels. The only thing that I'm going to insert on a channel is always going to be three things. I'm going to either put an auto tune, a de-esser, or I'm going to use a compressor or EQ on an individual channel that's going to affect the track. That's usually it. Auxiliaries, I always put my reverbs and delays and things like that on a separate auxiliary channel. I always do that. And then if I want to take a group of sounds together, and because I don't want a compressor to affect just one, let's say for example, drums, sometimes you need a compressor on just a kick drum by itself, a compressor on a snare, and maybe compressors on toms and things like that. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Oh, Maddie, you're welcome. Because I saw you said about $500 range. For the most part, if I want my drums, let's say I have drums on channels 1 through 8, I will usually bust them to a bus group, and then I would have an overall bus compressor. Because a lot of times you want the drums to sound cohesive, and compressors are very funny tools. Even though a compressor, you generally have 5 tools to it. They're going to have the threshold, they're going to have your attack release, your ratio, and your makeup gain. The threshold and the makeup gain is not even so much, because the threshold is just going to allow you when it's going to kick in based on how you set the threshold. And the makeup gain is just going to allow you to adjust the level of the compressor when it changes when you start compressing. So you use the makeup gain to make up the difference, to even it out. The thing that's going to really affect the 3 tools, and these 3 tools, the way you set them can make so many changes to the way you're compressing something. And that's going to be the ratio, the attack, and the release. Those 3 things can ultimately, you can compress right, you can over compress. You might get to the point where you have to limit, you get into limiting. 4-to-1 is definitely going to sound different than 5-to-1. 5-to-1 is going to sound different than 6-to-1. 6-to-1 is going to sound different than 7-to-1 on the ratio. Things like that. The attack, how fast you're attacking can affect the way it sounds. How slow you're attacking can affect the way it sounds. How the release is can affect the way it sounds. Those 3 tools can change. You can get 100 different ways that compressor makes that piece of sound that you're compressing, 100 different ways based on how you set the ratio. So you really have to be careful with compressors. Then EQs, same thing. Sometimes you only need to boost 1 dB of like 1500. So sometimes you might need to boost 2 dBs, or sometimes 2 or 3 dBs of 1500 could be too much. 250 to 300 hertz can be, if you boost it, can create this muddy sound. Sometimes you might have to cut 250 hertz because frequency can start competing with each other. And if you have a bunch of low tone sounds and they're all around the same frequency, you're not going to be able to distinguish the clarity in them. So EQs is another tool. But auxiliary, when you're doing reverb, when you're dealing with reverbs, delays, you always generally want to have them on a separate channel, because reverbs are emulating space. Delays are emulating the results of the sound in a certain room. Sometimes it's like everyone's done it when they go in a big empty room. They go hello, 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 hello. That hello that you're hearing is delayed. That's the time that the sound is bouncing from what is bouncing against the walls and come back to your ears, bouncing the wall, come back to your ear because it's bouncing back. It's bouncing. The sound is bouncing in a room. And how big the room, like yelling down a long hall, hey, that's versus ha in a big tall chamber, versus a plate where reverbs are bouncing between reflections of a wall, plate reverb. So you want to have, it's kind of like the sound is in the room and then the sound is making noise within the room, so that the effect of running your channel is still having your sound, but then putting on a different channel of the space you're going to use, like a concert hall or something like that, makes it sound like the source from that channel that you're sending to that hall, concert hall auxiliary, as an example, will make it sound like your sound within a room. That's why it starts to sound big and wide. They've been doing this in mixing on the console for years. This is the reason what makes channel and music sound so big in records that you're listening to. That's all they're doing. It's like if you think about it, if you've never been to a recording studio and you've seen pictures where you see a studio tour and they're walking there, and let's say they walk in there and there's an SSL console and a bunch of outboard gear. And of course, the traditional stuff that you've seen in the commercial studio. Well, you think about it, how are they getting this big sound doing that? Well, that's how they're doing it. They're doing it by blending the channels with auxiliaries. That's all they're doing. Let me read some more comments. They say, smart. I would like to see you perform a final mix, EQing and compressing, and then I will. And then you're asking me, say, do you tape stop effects on your master or your interval tracks for unique sound? I don't really do like reverbs and delays on a master. The auxiliaries they're already creating the space, and because the auxiliaries are still being routed to the master, you're going to hear it. So I don't put any master. Now, the only thing on a master bus that I try to do is mainly compressors and EQs if needed. Sometimes you don't always need to put an EQ or compressor. You just, so it just depends. It really does depend. But I don't put effects on my master because you're going to hear the effects from those auxiliaries coming to the master along with the regular channels. So if that makes sense. So okay, Tyson. Welcome. It says, what is your observation on beginners that are trying to get into the sound engineering? It's the reason I started making an audio engineering class just last week, starting with some basic stuff. I'm not even done. I'm not even done with doing my audio engineering classes, because I think audio engineering school was a good thing 20, 30 years ago. Because it taught all the basics, it taught people about room reflections, sound reflections, acoustics. It taught microphones, microphone placements. It taught people how to work on a console, how to set up a tape machine. It taught them everything. The problem with schools is they've gotten, like any other degree, they've gotten so ridiculously expensive that can be out of the range for some people. So I think that for someone that's trying to get into audio engineering, trying to find the right channel, to find resources can be the only channel problem. But once you land on a channel, someone's YouTube channel, maybe someone like mine's or other ones, there are lots of them. If they're, just go from there, because YouTube is free. If you can pick up if the information that you're learning is going to help. I think that was a long answer. Deal, you keep retracting your message, man. Why are you taking your messages off? Saying your messages are retracting. You should leave your messages. That way other people can read them because they might be thinking the same thing that you're writing on your messages. So, but, 89106, welcome. He says, Mark, when you're looking for an analog console, what are the basics to look for? When it comes to console, I try to look for a console that's going to have at least enough channels. That first of all, I got to make sure I can fit it in the room. It's going to have enough channels because I like to record. For the most part, I like to have an interface to have enough outputs. For example, my Antelope has 20. It can do 32, but it can do more than that. But I have 24 outputs coming from my Antelope. So every individual channel come out of my interface can come into a channel. So I need this many channels. This is a 48. I want at least this many amount of channels because I use the other channels for other things. Not everyone needs that, but it needs to have direct out. It also needs to have buses, and at least I kind of researched the preamp section on it, as well as I'm looking at the EQ. Can I use the EQ on that console? The auxiliaries and buses are not so much of a big deal. But at least that's what I'm kind of looking for in the console. I kind of like consoles that have LED or VU meters as well. I like to have like a meter bridge, like this one has a built-in meter bridge. But those are the sort of things I'm looking for in a console, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, okay. So, Dia says, I do that out of habit. I apologize. I had haters back in the day that used to talk trash about everything. Okay. I get you. Okay. In case somebody come out and make a hater comment on it. Yeah. And the thing is, for me, I get hater comments that most of the time, I'll get hate comments even on the channel. So, and of course, YouTube alerts me when I get a chance to look at the alert, and sometimes it'll go even to my phone. And excuse me, and I'll see hater comments. But what I do, a lot of times, I'll just delete the comment. But if it depends on the comment, sometimes I'll go to that and I'll block the person. I had to do that with quite a few people, and that's just the way the hater comments are. It just because I make criticizing videos like I made a video about like SSL SL users got butt hurt, and of course there was hate. I just deleted the hate comments. Y'all just didn't really see them because I can delete because I'm the administrator of my channel. So I delete those channel delete those. So we all gonna have hate comments. Yeah, I guess some people writing. Yeah, don't hate the. See. Welcome, Quack. I'm like I said, I don't want to mess up anyone's name, but welcome. You say you're hello from Vietnam. Good morning. Yeah, it's evening here, but good morning there in Vietnam. And welcome to the podcast. Max, your comments are very. I appreciate it. He's talking about the comments for DL. Yeah, the comments, because like I said, you might write a comment and someone else might be thinking the same thing. So, but sometimes if you write comments when I'm not doing a podcast, the great thing is, even if someone makes a derogatory comment to another YouTuber that's on my channel, as a minister, I can delete it. That's the great thing about being the minister. Because I read the comments. Because every single comment that comes in, I can see it. So I do my best to, if I see, and sometimes I'll miss certain things, but for the most part, 95% of the time, if I catch a nasty comment, even if it's not direct toward me, if it's direct toward another, and if they're nasty, if they're just a very nasty person, they're gone. I'm blocking them. They got to go because we don't need that here. This is about all of us making good, good music, and we all want to be good at recording and mixing and everything else. That's the whole point of my channel. My channel is to help everyone. So, okay. So Tactical Midi says, how do I get the most out of my interface converter going in, and how much gain you recommend? Okay, this is what I'm looking for on. Let's say I'm about to record a track, and everyone knows that when you look at your signal, it goes from 0 to unity, because anything above the 0, you're going into clipping danger zone. So you got to be careful of that. The ideal, this is what they say. The ideal is to get the signal up to at least negative 18 dB. That's the ideal range. So that way it gives you headroom. So you got some room to play with without having distortion, yet you want to try to get up to that range to reduce any noise floor. I mean, you don't want excessive noise in the signal, get a good clean signal. So I try to gauge that when I'm and you'll see that because my next video for my next audio engineering class is actually signal flow from recording source like my keyboards into how it routes through everything, through the patch bay, through the console, into the interface, into the DAW. And that's the next video on signal flow. Because my setup in here it's generally the same way if you walked into an actual commercial building. So this is just my bonus room, but I got the routing identical to a commercial building. That's by design. But so I'm going to show you what I'm looking for before I record something to get a good clean signal. But generally they want, if you're looking at just before the 0, you want to try to get at least 18 to 20 dB is where you want your dB to max at when you're looking at the signal. Let's say it's a kick drum and you can see the LED meter, do, and it's doing this. I don't want the kick to go over 18 dBs towards the 0, because I know that I won't have much headroom left. I hope that my answers are generally long, so if that makes sense. So Doctor says, in Vietnam, we don't have many studios with as much equipment as you. It's massive. I think, this is not anything against people living in Vietnam. I think Vietnam, because of what happened 50 years ago, Vietnam didn't have the access. I think Vietnam is growing. This is what I'm hearing. I think Vietnam is growing economically to the point where they're scaling up like China. Where China become massive, they got a lot of more infrastructure. There's a lot more coming in. Same thing with the way Japan and Korea and a lot of countries in Asia are starting to be able to mass up. So I think that as Vietnam becomes on a level like China and Korea and South Korea, not North Korea, South Korea, and Japan, I think that all the growth will grow as far as studios and technology and infrastructure. So Vietnam is catching up, but a lot of that has to do with the government too. So, but it's good that you're able to get on here and get on the internet, because we already know about the past. I don't like bringing up that kind of, because that was a kind of but anyhow, I think that and even with speaking on that, with technology, having a good set of studio monitors and an interface, a really nice interface with a DAW and plugins with a microphone, I would not be too concerned with an actual console and a lot of outboard gear, because plugins and the mixer in your DAW can take you a long way today. It wasn't like that about 30 years ago. You needed an analog console, you needed a tape machine, but that ain't really the case today. DAWs and plugins and software is just that good today. So I would not be too concerned with you having a ton of outboard gear like I do. I have it just simply because I'm just old school. If I was new school and I wasn't my mindset the way I brought up on the old school, and you'll notice with a lot of old school people. This is why you have the old school people fighting the new school people when it comes to technology. Most of the fight is because us old school people, we were brought up on consoles and tape machines and outboard gear. But it's kind of like if you look at Andrew Sheps, why he mixes in the box, why Michael Brower kind of gotten rid of a lot of gear, while Dave Pensado mixes with a lot of plugins, because they're effective. There's a lot of people that argue, I gotta have real, and it's most of the time. Sometimes here's another thing that they don't tell people about plugins. If your PC or Mac is not powerful enough, you're not going to hear the effects of those plugins. You might hear the effect of one or two plugins, but when you start doing a lot of plugin processing, because the computer still got to process to make that plugin work. So you got to have a powerful PC or Mac. This is what they don't tell people either. Just want to throw that out there as well. Let's see. Matthew says some people just jump online to laugh and make fun of people, but it's just a waste of. It is, and it's kind of like, I'll say this too, when they make regular crazy comments. Here's the fun thing. Let's say someone comes and let's say they make a crazy comment on something on my channel. I'll delete it. Now they got to go back and rewrite it, and then I'll just delete it again. And let's say they come back and write again. I'll just delete again. They'll get tired of writing stupidity comments. They really will. Because he just keeps deleting it. Yeah, exactly. I'll let you write it 25 times and I'll delete it 25 times. And like I said, depends on the type of comment. If you talk, one thing I won't deal with is hate or belittling or whatever. That people that start doing that, then I'll block them. It's going to force them to create a whole new YouTube channel and a whole new and whatever. Now they got to go back and do all that all over, and then they got to get onto the channel. Because a lot of times when you block people, YouTube keeps it where they don't know I'm posting videos. They won't be able to see it, and that's the whole point of that. So let me see. Mossen Styles. So welcome, Mossen Styles. Mark, how do I feel about standalone recorders instead of computers? I think that everyone that has a studio should have a backup standalone recorder. I do. I actually have a 24 channel hard disk recorder as well as my ADATs. And that's because I've had hard drives crash. I've had them crash. In case I need to record or get going or whatever, one thing that's great about that hard disk recorder, it works with zero issues. And if I have an issue with that, I can at least jump on ADATs. I'm going to have some sort of backup other than just depending on my computer, because computers, hard drives fail. And sometimes the computer can fail. It's not always the hard drive. The RAM can fail, which will cause the computer to crash. The video card can go out, which can cause the video, or the sound card or the power supply. I've had power supplies. Matter of fact, I'm dealing with a power supply for one of my other ones. The motherboard in your computer can fail. I had that happen to my other Mac. Had to get another motherboard. But this is the power supply for one of my other PCs. It went out. And of course, with it going out, the computer's not powering up. So I'm always thinking backup. That's why I have 3 systems in this room as we speak. I got a system going here. I got a system going here with my Mac. That's why I have several different audio interfaces as well. In case my audio interface, my antelope could fail, I can at least jump on my Mac and use my marker unicorns. I always think backup. So I know that's a long answer, but that's how I feel about having a hard disk recorder as a backup, because you never know. Some people are just straightly dependent on, and you could be in the middle of a project, and if your computer fails in the middle of a project, a recording session, if it fails, you're not going to be able to get that up. The momentum's gone for those clients. The momentum's gone. But for me, if my antelope fails, I can jump on the Mac and we can re-jump the session, and I'll just patch in the Mac, the match, and I'll just patch in the marker the unicorns and say, okay, give the client, take a 10-15 minute break. I'm going to patch in the mark, and I'm up and running. Now, I got Studio One on this one. I'll just open up Studio One on this one, and 10 minutes, we're back up. And if that's the case, or if I need to patch and just jump to the hard drive, I'll just patch in the hard disk recorder. We'll go from there. That's the best way to always be prepared. So that's a long answer, but anyhow, there you go. Okay, says everyone wants to be appreciated. Yeah, exactly. Appreciate no one else making an audio engineering series. Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate it. That's like I said, I want I want to teach. I don't charge anyone to teach anything, because I'm like this. This is my thought process. I'll teach what I know, so that way people can learn and they can go and use to do what they need to do. You got a lot of people. Here's the crazy part, and I think this is why the music industry got broken in the first place, because the record labels were so greedy. You think about this for a quick second. I'm going to talk about recording artists. I'm going to try not to be too long on this. You think about this the old system way. What they knew about, what artists didn't know when they were signing contracts, whether there was an artist or even a songwriter signing a publishing deal with a publishing company. Most people didn't know that the power of what they call copyright. Copyright. An artist, no matter what, even if they are signed to a record label, they own the copyright. How the record labels manipulate the copyright from artists is they're under a contract that says that your copyrights, every time you write something, you're releasing your copyrights to us. And in exchange, we're only going to give you 15% of that 100% that would have been yours. That's where that point system worked out. We're going to give you 12% of what you own. Can you imagine? Like, for example, this console and 48, and they say, well, I'm only going to give you 12% of it. That means I am only allowed to use 8 channels of the 48 channels. I'm only allowed to own 8 of it. The rest of it, I can't use the other 40 channels. Can you imagine what that feels like? Even though I need more than 8 channels. I need 24. Nah, we'll pay you a percent. That's the gist of it. So you think to yourself, if a record label has 20 artists signed to it and they only give them each of them 12%, and they justify, well, we're giving you all these advances and all this other stuff, right? We're giving you all this but we're taking the risk. No, the artist is taking just as much of a risk as the record labels. But that's how they justify it. Even though, well, how do you make your money for artists? But they had to tour. And they had to pay back the label because the record label was giving you all these advances and everything else. So that's the messed up part about it. So I don't know if that, I think that's the reason why I think everyone should be independent. That's why I believe in teaching everyone, whether you learn how to do the tools yourself, learn how to market yourself, learn how to do everything yourself, and you make your whole 100%. You make the song, you own the copyright, you own it, you make your money. I'm not going to give this other person give up my rights for them to make money that I could have made. I don't believe in that. So every one of y'all that are talented out there and y'all putting out music, that money should go to y'all. It's because you put in the work. The artist is putting in all the work. They're putting all the studio time. They're doing all the touring and everything else. So that's just how I feel about it. So oh yeah, appreciate it. You're welcome, Mossum Styles. You're welcome. Let's say, okay, Deal says you're asking who artists do I like that I actively like to listen to right now? Do they inspire your current productions or mixes? Or if so, how and what do you do when you hear something that makes you say, wow? I'm gonna tell you, believe it or not, this is how versatile I am. A lot of y'all may or may not know, but for example, let's say you've seen some of the Puerto Rican flag, because I am actually biracial. I am what they call Black and Puerto Rican. So I do speak Spanish. So I listen to a lot of Latino music as well. But I get on there and I'll listen to, because I was in the army, I got exposed to even like India, like artists from India, pop music. I can't understand what they're saying, but a lot of the music is really, really depends on the artist. A lot of that music is good. I like a lot of Korean, they call it K-pop. I'm on modern, I'm talking about modern music today. I like a lot of K-pop. And of course, a lot of K-pop is actually in English. So I like, as far as modern artists for the United States, I like I like what Bruno Mars is doing. Let me see who else that I'm liking. There's not a whole lot of modern artists because I'm just old school. I'm always listening to 90s and 80s the most, 70s, 80s, and 90s the most. But every now and then there will be an artist that I'll go and I'll be like, oh, I like that. But right now, I'm listening to even K-pop. I like what they're doing with K-pop. I just do. So that's, if that answers your question. That a lot of that makes me go, wow. Yeah, always saying that's awesome to be able to go from a different rig in DAW with something. Yeah, exactly. Because this is what I've always seen, and I've seen thousands of commercial and home recording studio tours. I've seen thousands of them, and almost every last one of these studios will have one system. They'll either have an Avid Pro Tools setup, or they'll have a Mac and they'll have usually one, maybe two DAWs, and they'll usually have one interface. The reason why I think like having backups, for me, that's the Army and me. We had a thing called PMCS. PMCS for the military and the Army stands for Preventive Maintenance Checks and Services. Preventive maintenance meant that you would do all the pre-checks to make sure that when you drove that military car or truck, that you did everything to keep it from failing. So when you're doing a PMCS, you're doing preventive maintenance. So my goal is to always also be prepared. We used to do this thing in the military. We would do things like, before an airborne jump, we had to do this thing called a pre-jump training. And so the pre-jump training, we would prepare all the paratroopers, and we would have them go through the scenarios. The first thing we do is we'll tell a jumper, say something like, jumpers hit it. So a parachuter, he knows to get into a good tight body position, and he start doing his count. So he's simulating as if he's jumping out of the aircraft. Or when you're about to go to the range, you want to go, and so a lot of times we'll do, and we'll have sometimes we'll go to a simulator. It's a rifle simulator, and practicing before you actually go out in the range. And a lot of times, and things like that, you're practicing. Or if you're about to go on a patrol, we would do what they call, we would set up like what they call sand tables to practice the scenarios over and over and over before we did a patrol or whatever. Simply that way, you're going to execute in real situations how you practice. So my thought is always being prepared. It's kind of like, okay, how much water? Do we got more water that we're carrying? And So my philosophy is that with me working in my studio, I always want to have a backup and be prepared. So that's the reason why I know that's a lot. Like so my answer is always long winded. Um, let's see. Adia says I like Indian trap. Man, there are some dope in it. Let me tell you some of that music. Especially I was over there when I got exposed to Indian pop music when I was in Iraq, and they was playing. You know, they had when I was going to because we still got to get your hair cut and all that other stuff. So they had the locals. You go in there and get your hair cut, and I was sitting there and they would play this Indian pop music through the video, and I'm like, man, that's kind of it was. You know, he was like, hey, couldn't understand the, you know, but they was the music was like that's and they were playing these different Indian pop videos, and I'm like, that music is really, really good. So I got a few CDs of Indian pop music while I was in Iraq, and I'm like, that goes to show you. Same thing with K-pop. I got exposed to K-pop music. I'm like, man, this is really, really good. When I was in Korea, when I was listening to Korea, you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed some of the artists that's coming out of Korea. Some of these artists in Korea can compete with American artists vocally and everything else. If you don't believe me, all you got to do is like look up a Korean artist doing like a Whitney Houston song and watch how amazing she sounds vocally. You be blown away. I think there's so much overseas talent that we don't get exposed to. But let me see. Oh yeah, Dio said that K-pop girl group is making some fire train right now, and they look to throw a little bit. Yeah, let me tell you. Maybe let's see. Let me finish reading the statement. Maybe to cater to the tough Asian crowd, but those girls are talented. I can't remember the name. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of Korean K-pop girls and guy groups. The music is it is good for me. It may not be good for everyone. We all don't like everything, but but to me, I listened to it and I was like, wow. So all right, we got Scree Studios. Welcome. Welcome back. Doing another Sunday podcast. And say, Marks, do you ever sketch songs with plugins featuring AI vocals and word? No, actually, I haven't used any AI software. I'm not really big on AI stuff. I'm sure it got some benefits to it, but I hadn't thought about using it. So, you say laughing out loud. I almost missed PMCS and trucks in the motor pool on Tuesdays at Bragg. See, when I was at Bragg, it was on Mondays. You know what you call it motor stables, right? Now, you said Bragg. I don't know what I don't know if you were. I was in 504th. So I was what they call a Blue Devil. I was in 3rd Battalion, 504. You know where the motor pool is. You already know about Ardennes and Gruber, and where 82nd headquarters. If you're Bragg, you already know where all that's at. Long Street, Knox. Riley Road and all that going out. All American, but I guess this is the 90s. So LMTVs were fairly new. FMTVs were fairly new. Humvees have been around for about 5-6 years since the Gulf War. They didn't MRAPs and all that didn't exist. Those kind of vehicles didn't exist. But yeah, it was, you go in there and you look pull up the 10 manual and you go back there and look at the before, during, after checks, and you make sure the drip pans under there, chop blocks, or all that kind of stuff, the chains around the steering wheel, because military vehicles don't have keys. That's why it was funny when you say, hey, run down to the motor pool and check make sure you look for the keys on the APC. I think we left the keys in the APC. It's so funny to send new privates to go look for keys for military vehicles. That's hilarious. Deal says at Bollywood music has dope drums. There's a lot of it's a lot of there's so many good music out there. I listen to a lot of, just depends on the and so forth. Let's see, Andre Carter said, you would not believe Koreans sing English like their first. Yes. Yeah, so a lot of you, so y'all know then. Y'all know. Y'all know um about a lot of these other y'all already, I don't even have to tell you, y'all already comment on it, so y'all know. Um and like I said, I'm not hip to the word builders. Um but I know that there are people that use word builders, like someone who sings something and it generates the lyrics. I know Cakewalk I think Cakewalk, if you've seen the words, I think it can generate lyrics. I have to double check that. I know it can definitely generate um when you're in Cakewalk and you can generate let's say you do your music, it can generate the chord charts and print out the sheet music. Cakewalk can do that. But so can Studio One, and there's there's a lot of the Pro Tools can do that. They can print out. So it might have built-in word builders there, but AI. Let me tell you what was funny. I saw this video of it saying how you can have some of these AI programs where a person you can be a guy like me, and I can sing something and turn myself into a blonde chick singing that song. That's what AI is doing now. Here's the only downside to that. Let's say someone generates and let's say they generate this AI artist and they're making this amazing music, having an AI artist. How's the AI artist going to go on tour in person for real? Let's say you generate this gorgeous looking brunette chick or whatever. Or, you create this, let's say you create another artist like a Whitney Houston or whatever. And these tracks they're fire, they're hitting, they're blowing up, they done blew up on social media, and they're AI. How are they going to go on tour? Because they're not real. So how are they going to do a tour? How are you going to pull that off? That's the things are you going to use screen generators and only people come to the show to see a screen? I'm just curious. So let me read some more comments. This is let me see what else. So choir sound without the costing of recording a choir. Yeah. There's harmonizers, and you can double up those harmonizers and everything else to create big choirs. I've seen where engineers will record a 5-piece group of people and they turned it into like a 60-piece choir. It's using harmonizers and programs like that to double and triple and quadruple the voices to make it sound huge. So it just depends. So let me see what else. I'm gonna finish reading the statement. I've been a little lazy about making music lately. I hope I can snap. Yeah. It's hard sometimes it can get into a rut, but that's why I always play with sounds to see if it's going to influence me to come up with an idea. Whether I'm playing my keyboards or I'm playing some VST instruments. I like the sound. That's interesting. And I'll play around. I got an idea. And that's how it happens. That's for me. So Lavin said, we used to send our new troops back to the motor pool, demanding that they didn't come back until they found the box of grid squares. I don't know, for those that are not in the military, a new person that joins the military, I don't care if you join the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Army, whatever. In the Army, we got they're jokes. A box of grid squares, because a lot of people know grid squares are actually the squares on a map that you read. But it's funny to send people like going up to the airfield and send them getting a roll of flight line. Well, they try that on me too. You need to go and get a roll of flight line. Not really. Flight line is really grounding wire for aircraft. But the flight line itself is just where all the helicopters sit on. They call it the flight line. And so you'll say a roll of flight line. So this brand new privates that go looking for a roll of flight line, and then the people or they'll tell them, they'll say, hey man, go into the office and get that prick E8. A prick E8 and which stood for PRC, because the old radios before they were SINGARs were called PRCs. And so prick was the acronym for the radio. So they would say, go in the office, get that prick E8, meaning calling the first sergeant a prick. So they would say, hey, go in there and look for that prick E8. So basically calling the first sergeant a prick. So, and the first sergeant would automatically know, he knew some NCO then sent that soldier in there. They knew an NCO did that. Or go in there and get a left-hand screwdriver, or go knock on the 5-ton and listen for soft spots, or go get an exhaust sample. It's hilarious. And they'll send them on these wild goose chases. It's so hilarious. Until they're probably rises up, we're like, hey, they're getting me. Especially when everyone starts laughing. But everyone's been a victim of it. And the funny thing is, they try to get me with the role of flight line, but when you do what they call an NSN, a national stock number, an NSN lookup for flight line, it actually does exist. It's grounding wire. So I played a trick. I went and did an NSN stock number for flight line, came up ground and ordered it. So when it came in, 3 months later, I gave it to my sergeant. He said, "What's this? Here's the flight line you were looking for that you asked me to get 3 months ago." He's like, "What the?" And of course, when you look on the box with the NSN and number, it said flight line. Of course, being a smart aleck PFC, of course, that didn't go well for me being smarter than him. So. So I'm laughing about that. This old Army jokes. Let's see. Let's see. Let me read some more comments. I feel that that's fraudulent use, and I would use them to prevent paying vocalists for sessions. Oh yeah, you're talking about the AI stuff. Yeah, it's like I said, you have to be careful with some of these tools. You have to be careful with some of these tools because, like I said, if someone makes this amazing, let's say they make this music, this track, and it's like, man, they're like, who's that artist? And they let's say they get an artist a name. Let's say her name is Sapphire, and she's singing a song. It's like a real person is singing this amazing song. How is she gonna go on tour? Because Sapphire doesn't exist. That's how you gonna pull that off. So, Black Sea Beat says, I remember that, bro, getting a boxing. Yeah, let me tell you. They used to get, hey, sometimes they would say stuff like, when they try to get you, and some stuff just wouldn't make sense. Like an exhaust sample. I'm like, an exhaust sample? That doesn't make sense. Oh, yeah, just put the bag over the exhaust pipe, and when you start it up, you're supposed to catch the bag and then tape it up. Or what was another one? Batteries for the Kim lights. Battery for Kim lights. For those that don't know, Kim lights, how they work is they're in their little plastic containers. You open it, you snap them, and it activates the chemical to make them light. There's no batteries in them, but a brand new person wouldn't know that if they were gullible. So, hey, go get them. We need a couple of new AA's for those Kim lights. So that's hilarious. Oh, he says he's laughing. Yeah, the prick arts. Yeah, I remember that big old radio, the Prick 77. I trained to those in ROTC before I enlisted and trained to use SINGAR. Let me say, when we had the PRC 77, because it was the old school. If you ever watch old Vietnam war movies, the radio guy carrying the radio on his back, those are usually PRC 77s. The 68s were the big ones that usually mounted in like Jeeps and stuff like that. But 77 was that portable one, and the battery pack weighed 1,000 pounds. And he had his long, they called a whip antenna. and you would carry that, and you had to change it, and you would have the mic and earpiece, the telephone portion of it. You had to push the button to talk, and then you listen to listen, and that was connected to a cable to it, and you were sitting there, and it always sounded Charlie Bravo 1, Charlie Bravo 1. This is Delta Alpha 1, Delta Alpha 1. Do you read me over? Charlie Alpha 1, Charlie Alpha 1. This is Delta Alpha 1. Do you read me over? Charlie, Delta Alpha 1. This is Charlie Alpha 1. Read you. I have a salute report. Size, activity, location, unit, time, and equipment. Go ahead with your report. That's kind of, but anyhow, so that was a big radio on the back. I love talking to military stuff too. So Mag2 B said it's crazy time for music, not only for home recruiting and streaming, and now AI. Like I said, I'm all for technology because of what we can do with plugins, what we can do with software, and how we can record in our homes. I'm just a little leery on the AI because I still believe that we as humans shouldn't allow we shouldn't allow the computers to do everything for us. That takes away your thinking ability. It's kind of like the originality is starting to fade because some computer did it for you. That's why I'm not really big on like Unison MIDI chord pack as an example. I'd rather teach people how to come up with their own chords, how to create chords and all that, so they can be creative on their own. And I don't need there's probably a combination of, you think all 15 major and all 15 minor keys. So you got the key is C. There's 15 keys. So you're talking 15 majors and 15 minors. So C, then you got the key of D, E, F, all the way up to D, E, F, G, A, B. Then you got B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, F, G flat, and so forth. Then there's those relative minors. You can, with knowing chord structures and progressions and being able to create, I can make every chord starting from a basic triad all the way up to 13th chord in every single key. Every single key. If I'm in a key of C, key of D flat, key of D, key of E flat, I can do that. So I don't need a chord program to do that for me, because sometimes that program might not play the rhythm of how I'm thinking this chord progression. It may not come up with the rhythm or the idea that I'm thinking. It may come up with the chord progression, but not the rhythm. So now I got to go back and replay the rhythm anyway. So that's just me. But let's see, Blackberry, aka Glow Sticks. Yeah. And what's funny is sometimes we would put those Kim lights on the back of jumpers so you can see the jumper below you. When you come out the aircraft and you're looking down, you can see jumpers, because sometimes when you come out the aircraft at night, it's dark. You can't even see the drop zone. Or sometimes we use those glow, on when we're doing in the field and we're on patrols or whatever, or we'll set up Kim lights. But also it has this thing called noise and light disciplines, because if you can see that glow stick size Kim light, so can the enemy. So there's a time and place for that. That's why a lot of times we use red lenses. You don't want any white lenses or anything bright, because the enemy can see it. Because that stuff is bright. It's no different than someone smoking a cigarette. You can see someone smoking a cigarette a mile away with the right nods. You can say, oh, someone's smoking a cigarette. You see them? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially you looking through a set of NVGs. NVG stands for night vision goggles. So Mag2 has is like ordering a eggless omelet. Yeah. Basically, that's basically, it's kind of like my omelet. I'm thinking omelet, I want to put not just eggs in there. He said eggless, but I want not only eggs, I'm thinking tomatoes, onions, cheese, all kinds of ingredients in there, bell pepper, salt and pepper and different seasonings and all that to make that omelet. That's what's going to give your song some flavor, if that makes sense. So, oh, you said I still use a red lens at night. Most of the, lead, yeah, because red, believe it or not, um, red is a color on a lens for lighting that's hard to see versus yellow or white or even blue in distances. That's why red is the choice, especially when you're sitting there and you have to do an 8-digit grid on a map, and you have to set up an 8-digit grid, and they want you to use a red lens because red won't, it doesn't illuminate far like other lights do. Um, so I even still have that yeah, everyone knows that everyone when you first join the army and you go to the shop at or the PX, most of the time when you first join the army, you're not going to the PX because you're in basic training. You go to the shop at and everyone buys that infamous, looks like an L flashlight with the screw lid. You can change the lenses on it. I still got that, and I went to basic training in '89. I still got that flashlight, and it still works. To this day, it still works. I got it hanging in my garage, but I still got that flashlight. It's effective. It's just that when you're hanging on of course, they don't wear LBEs and all that anymore. They wear, are the not even the flat vest, but the what do you call the new? I've retired in 2013, so I forgot a lot of the new equipment that that everyone's having. But so Dio's asking me, do you keep tracks in the same key in a song, or do you switch keys during the course of particular production? It depends on how I'm writing. It really does. I could be writing I might be writing a song and I might want the key to go up. It just depends. Some songs stay in the same key. Sometimes they might go up. Sometimes it goes up, might go back down. It really depends on the key or the song. So yeah, the right angle flashlight. Yep. That I still got it. I still got a compass, an azimuth compass. I still got that. I still got some of the maps. I even got some of the maps that from some of the places I was stationed, like Fort Carson and Fort Hood and Bragg and Campbell and all these. I still got maps from those places. Actually, 1 in 50,000 scale map. I still got some of those. I still got a lot of stuff from, I still got, all that stuff is in the other room. I still had TM. Believe it or not, I even picked this up. One of the first things I ever bought when I was in Korea. Korea was my first duty station. Was these dolls right here. These dexterity balls. So, yep, this box. This is from Korea. I got some more accolades that I got from when I was in Korea. A lot of stuff is in the other room, military stuff. I don't know if I got some stuff in here, but most of my military stuff is in the other room. So, let me see. He said, yeah, that flashlight couldn't dangle like a buster without Yeah, let me tell you, because it's bouncing. So you had to tape it to keep it from making noise. Because it's part metal, part plastic. Then we finally got smart and started getting stuff like these lights. I used to get this. This is what I got in Iraq, and it still works. This light, the little snap ring. I used to have it on my I had it on my not my LB, my I forget what you call it. I'm gonna pull up I think I'm gonna pull up one quick picture. Y'all may or may not be able to see this picture through the camera. Let me pull up a picture. Let me see here. If I can pull up a picture. Let me see here. You may or may not be able to see this through the camera. Since I'm on. Like that's I don't know if that's gonna because of the light. So I don't know if you better see that. That's me. Yeah, that's not really good because of the light. Let me bring down the bright. Let me bring down the. Okay, let me see. I don't know if that'll show better. That's me in Afghanistan. So that was me in Afghanistan. So, um, but yeah, I used to have it. I used to take this on my. I'm drawing a blank on my dang. Um, Not my flight vest, but what do you call it? It's another name. Someone help me out. RBA. That's yeah. That's it. Yeah, yeah. I'm glad I should have read what y'all. Yeah, yeah. My RBA. I used to hang this so when you're walking, and they used to have those little cheap ones, the little small ones too. For those that probably deployed, y'all remember the Otis Spunkmeyer muffins? You remember those little plastic from the PX? They would give you the little plastic because they wouldn't give you real change from the PX. When you went to the PX when you deployed, they give you the little plastic um, um, coins or whatever. Yeah, I know it's probably hard to see. It was really hard to see because the camera, this is like I said, the lighting. I'll try to show one more picture. Let me see. If I can pull up one more picture. Okay, let me see if this will show up. I don't know if this will show up or not. I don't know. That's kind of hard to see. That's me in Iraq. That was when I was at Camp Spiker. So yeah, you can see I was with 101st. So yeah. So yeah, but oh yeah, somebody said the burner ball. Yeah, BDU pin holder. Yeah, that just so, and the BDU is battle dress uniform, but yeah, so make sure I'm still okay. So yeah, but I think when it comes to music, you really have to be careful with using AI. Just like you have to, it's like with being careful with samples. I don't think there's nothing wrong with being samples. Like it's how you sample. There's nothing wrong with using samples, but it's how you sample. But a lot of times, some people sample and they take too much of another track, and that's what can get them trouble. So you got to be careful with that as well. But yeah, sometimes when I'm playing, sometimes if I'm creating, I'm like, that's a good idea. Let me record that. And I might be thinking of something, but sometimes I run out of ideas too. I'm going back to what DL was saying earlier about being in the wrong songwriting rut. We get like that, being in a songwriter rut. So what are y'all thoughts on AI and all that? What are your thoughts? Would you use AI? Because there's one, I forget, it's voice AI sound or something like that. There's out there. There's another one called I can't forget, it's UVDO or something like that. I can't remember the name of these AI programs. What are your thoughts? So on the using those tools. Like I said, I'm real reluctant with samples. So okay, he's laughing. I used to have a bump. I used to have to bump the Mark 9. Yeah, Mark grenade launcher. So on my left shoulder while carrying the 40 mic. Oh boy, that's a lot of weight. Because the Mark 19 it's heavy. It's an automatic grenade launcher. So basically a grenade launcher machine gun. And for those that don't know what a Mark, MK stands for Mark. We call it a Mark. It actually doesn't stay for Mark. It's an MK19. There's also an MK47, which is an advanced Mark 19. But yeah, I fired those do, and those are they do some damage in a 40 mic. Yeah, you talking about the grenades themselves, but um let's see, while wearing Ranger body armor, those clay plates, clay plates weigh you down. Yeah. Think about it. If you fully load with sappy plates, ammo, Mark 19 rounds, the Mark 19, a lot of times you hope you got it on a tripod, hope it is mounted to a vehicle on a MRAP or a Humvee or even an up armored LMTV or whatever. You hope that's all that, because I wouldn't want to launch. It was bad enough humping back in the day. Of course, it's the 240 Bravo, but it was hard enough humping the M60 machine gun. They call it the Pig. Because it says it's only 19 pounds, but 19 pounds can get heavy, quick, can 660. So, but I love the way an M60 sounds. That's my favorite sounding weapon. That you can, boy, that 60 going off, you can hear it. Of course, I love the way a 240 Bravo sound because it's the improved version of a 60. But yeah, I used to hear when I was deployed wearing sappy plates and all that, and your elbow pads, and you got your ACU, your ACU, and then all that, and you got all your ammo, 210 rounds, 7 magazines of all that. So yeah, you can get heavy pretty quick. So Andrew says AI to me can be used for creative, but let a human like I said, I don't have a problem with AI, or I'm not really big on it. I never said I didn't have a problem with it. I'm not really big on it. I think all tools can be used if used right. But like I said, if you start creating AI artists, you're going to run into problems because those AI artists can't tour. They're not human. They can't go to award shows, AI, whatever. Now, they're making AI robots. Those ones that look like humans that can talk, they react, they're trying to, and I'm like, be careful what it's almost like I use AI as almost like that statement. Y'all remember the scene from Jurassic Park, the first one in Jurassic Park? And these people are he's like, and y'all remember what was his name that he said, forget his name, Jeff something. He was like, y'all was so busy occupying that y'all didn't think if y'all should. Meaning when they start making all these dinosaurs, they got out of control. And once the guy, the greedy guy that let the defenses down, he shut the system off, trying to make money under the table, jeopardized the entire camp, and all those dinosaurs got out of control. And before you know it, it was, you can't control animals. Not like you think. That's why you can't. It's like wild animals. You can't. Dinosaurs would be wild animals, not like your domestic cats and dogs. That dog, a pet dog, you can't control a hyena or a tiger or a lion as a pet or a python. That's the most craziest thing in the world. You think they're wild animals for a reason, but so you gotta be careful with that. That's just the same. I'll use that same analogy for AI. Be careful, So Deal says Library of Congress is saying that they will not copyright AI music because it's not a human creation. I wonder if that will apply to AI assisted mastering or mixing plugins as well. I don't know. Do not know. We don't know. We don't know if that's a good idea. You got, like I said, that's why I don't use. I create everything. Every music that I do, I create. I actually physically play. Every part that I play, that you hear music from me, I'm actually playing it. That's just me. If it's a bass guitar or a bass sound from the keyboard, or actually bass guitar, I'm actually playing the bass. The only thing that I don't play that I use is drums. I create a lot of my drum tracks with drum programs. Even though I can play the drums, but I'm not good enough to play drums to be playing on tracks. I'll let a real drummer do that. But for the most part, but I create my own drum beats. So that way it cannot be they're, and they probably don't have any algorithms yet. It's like plagiarism when you're writing in college, when you're writing papers, they got plagiarism programs to see if you plagiarize someone else's work. They're probably going to do that with AI in music when it that's probably coming soon, to see if it's AI, because some AI songs are so convinced that a human did it, you can't tell the difference. But that's probably coming too. I don't know. So Screechy said, I like writing some of the AI vocal tools, but only as a sketch vocal until our real vocalist. Yeah, and I think that's where you can use AI at. I think that's a good tool to use. Like me, I'm not a singer. So I think using an AI voice to see how it would sound until you can actually get an artist to sing it, I think that's a great way to use AI. And you gave me a good idea. I think I'm probably going to use it for that. So, and then this, we're asking, you haven't used AI stuff yet, but or bought any, but I am aware that I'm currently looking at. And I thought about it too. Word builder as a VST plugin. Yeah, I thought about a lot of that. I don't know about the word builder, but I was thinking about that. I was like, man, that AI, that would be great to use until I can actually get an artist. That. So I'm contemplating that too. Like I said, I think on Cakewalk and some of these programs can build lyric sheets. If you have someone sing in your DAW, I'm gonna check after we get off this podcast. I'm gonna check and see if it can do that. I think it can do that. It can actually create the lyrics from listening when someone sings a vocal track. I think it can do that. I never thought about printing out lyrics because, but that's a good idea. I'm usually writing lyrics the old school way. I usually write my lyrics like this is song. These are lyrics to songs that I write. These are some of the songs. These are some of the lyrics from some of the songs I write. In here, I just write them. That's just me. But I guess it's no different than you used to see artists when they sit there writing songs. They'll be at a piano and they're writing the notes on a chord chart and they're charting the notes out. And it's like, well, you don't have to do that now with DAWs. You just play it and it makes the chord charting for you, and you can just print that off. So it doesn't make any sense to write all that out anymore. So now they even have word programs that, let's say you're writing, let's say you're writing a paper, you can do voice initiating programs and as you speak, it's writing the paper for you. Then you can run it through Grammarly for error, for spell check and all that. We're so advanced with this software. It's incredible. We're so advanced. John, welcome again. I think you coming in late. I start this thing I don't know what time it is where you're at, but I start at 8:00 Central Time here in the United States. So that's why I start around 8-ish time. I was about 8:05 today, but I start around 8. So, in Arizona. So you are, depending on what part of Arizona you are in, you might be on Mountain Time or you could be on Pacific time. But like Arizona, I had to go to Fort Huachuca for a few weeks for school when I was in the military. Sierra Vista, not a whole lot to do in Sierra Vista. Have been to Tucson. So yeah, my main light too. Okay, John said you want to share something with. Okay, all right. Go ahead, share away. Welcome, Maine 257 says. John says I remastered 2 of my songs, Access Analog. How did you like it? How did they come out? Oh, it's incredible. Okay. I think Access Analog, ain't that the service where you could send your music, and it actually connects to a system that allows you to use analog gear like Pultex 1176 and stuff like that, but you're doing it through the internet. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's that. Okay. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I heard a lot of people using that service. Um, because I have a lot of analog gear myself. I use my own analog gear. It says I use the SSL2 bus and an SSL Fusion. Okay, really nice pieces of gear. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not going to dispute that, because if you think about all the millions of records from the thousands of artists um, that were going to all these top-notch studios. I mean, that was the gear. That was, an SSL console or Neve or an API. They were using Studio tape machines or whatever. They were using Pultex and 1176s and LA2As and so forth. And I mean, that was the sound. So I would not definitely, would say it wouldn't sound bad. It's definitely going to sound good if used right, for sure. Definitely. So we were talking. We got to talk about it. We talk about everything from military to you name it. Oh, you said till I can buy. I mean, I would say this when it comes to buying gear. I'm going to say this. Of course, Z Sounds allows you to pay monthly payments on a lot of high-end gear. Tommen has some great deals on gear. Sometimes you can catch some deals on Reverb, on some used gear. What else? Sometimes even eBay. Tommen, it's a spell Tommen. Tommen is going to be it's going to be THOMANN. So I'll write it in the chat. It's going to be THOMANN. There are a website that you can go, and that's how I got my Antelope interface at a discounted price. Those things were going for 32. I got it for 23. You just got to shop deals. But Z Sounds is a great way. Like, let's say you want a distressor. Distressors are $1,100 average, right? For a distressor. Tommen will allow you to buy that distressor and pay like $100 a month. So check out Z Sounds will allow you no credit check. All you do is make your monthly payment, and they will, you put your first payment, and they will send it to you within the next couple of days. So Z Sounds is a great way to get gear. But I would say if you want gear and you want analog gear, that's how I got a lot of my stuff. Reverb, Z Sounds, Tommen, eBay, pawn shops, you just name it. And especially you want to look, I would definitely look at clones. You got Audioscape makes nice stuff. Warm Audio, definitely Stem Audio, Ventec. There's so many clone companies out there that making clones, recreation of all this gear. It's kind of like, if I buy a clone of 1176, like I got the Lindale Audio 76s in the rack, and they sound as good as actual Universal 1176s. I'm not spending $2,500 a piece on Universal Audio 1176s. I'm getting the same results with my Lin 76s. So I don't see why I would spend $2,500. You know, I can buy 5, 6 pieces of clone gear for the price of one universal audio. And have y'all seen have y'all seen the price of pool techs? A pool tech will run you 10 grand. You know what you can do with 10 grand other than buying a pool tech, an actual authentic pool tech? I can buy, like I have the Linder audio pool techs. I got plugins. I can buy a nice audio interface. I can buy a couple of microphones, a set of studio monitors. I can buy a nice DAW controller. I can buy some plugins and things like that for the same price of a pool tech. You know, and that's only one. And because that pool takes one unit, you got to choose where you're going to use it. Just like someone spending $35,000 on a Fairchild 670. I just don't understand that. You know, I just don't. You know, when they make really nice Fairchild plugins, UAD has some. I mean, there's a lot of plugin companies making Fairchild plugins. And then some of these clone companies are making Fairchild, like the Unfairchild. They're making clones of it for a fraction of the cost, because you're not going to hear an authentic Fairchild from a clone recreation in a mix. You're just not. It's too much other stuff going on in the mix to hear for someone to say, oh, I got an authentic Fairchild 670. No one's going to be able to say, oh, I heard that 670 on the master bus. No one can even hear that well to be able to do that. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes certain sounds and certain compressors are recognizable because they're like 1176s. Once you hear it enough, you know what 1176 sounds like. But when you got 1176 on your compressor or your room mics, as an example, and you got bass going on, you got drums going, you got hi-hat going, you got room mics going, you got bass guitars going, guitars, synthesizers, background, you got all kinds of compressors on other bus groups, you got reverb units going on auxiliaries, you got delays going, you got EQs on your master bus. No, you cannot pinpoint that Fairchild on your bass. You just can't. So let me read. Let's see. See. Yes. Oh yeah, reverb. Yeah, Vintage King. Vintage King can be pricey. Sweetwater can be pricey, but Reverb's Vintage King is a good place too, because they have really good a good tech department. So you got the Mercury does also, but some of those Mercury and some of those, it's kind of like some of those. I'm leery of some of those websites, because especially when they're overseas, because they like you just about to fly to like Indonesia or wherever it's at. You're not about to jump on a plane and try to locate someone that screwed you off, so screwed you out of a deal or whatever. So you just have to be careful. I try to get stuff from the most trusted websites for the most part, like Sweetwater. Like I can go to Indiana if I have a problem at Sweetwater. I can literally drive to Indiana. But Sweetwater used gear. They got another department called Gear something. Gear Exchange, I believe it's called Gear Exchange. That's the used department for Sweetwater as well. Check that as well. They usually have deals on gear too. Seven Sun Music. I ain't seen Seven Sun in a while. Welcome, Seven Sun. I ain't seen you in a minute. Let me read same argument you're making between high end and clone. Some can make to mixing in the box. Yeah, it's like I do a combination of everything between working in the box, working, outboard gear, working the console. It all works. So that's why I'm not, some people would, they're preferably one. It's like someone using the Pro Tools versus Logic argument. I'm like, why are y'all making that argument? They both work. Logic or a Pro Tool. It's preference. That's not a one's better than the other. It's just that Logic works for some people and they do well in Logic. Other Pro Tools works for other people, and it's not a it's not a contest, but people make it a contest. When they make mics against mics, or interfaces against interfaces, or speakers against speakers, or whatever. I just say whatever works. If it works working in the box, it works in the box. Because a lot of times you can't hear the difference between, if I play some keyboard patches from my keyboard, or if I play some keyboard patches from my VST, a lot of those are sample library sounds from the hard drive from the keyboard versus being recorded to downloaded into my hard drive on my computer. You're not going to hear, there's not a difference in the sound quality, but it's also depending on how well the samples are modeled too. Those sounds, those patches. But let's see. Let me see. Deal. So there is cash and tax strategy behind your big producers buying expensive equipment. It's not elite yet, but there are some trains. There are some trains why they're buying that expensive equipment and bragging. Well, here, let me tell you about the whole producer thing. And especially when we're talking about, if you go back in the history of recording music, the selling point was that producers would go to these studios, and the names of gear was not such a thorough round then like it was today. In other words, being overly hyped. And I'll tell you what I mean. I'll tell you what I mean about that. Back in the 80s or whatever, all producers cared about is if a studio had gear that can do the job. They really wasn't big on names. They didn't really care if this studio had this or that. But then, because of the skills of the engineer and how they will record the artist and the band and how they captured and that, and the producers would say, okay, man, that recording came out and you mixed it well. What'd you do? Well, I mixed it on the SSL. We ran it through a Shadow Hills mastering or whatever. We ran it through some Pultec EQs, or, we ran it, I got vocals on, running through an LA2A and blah, 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 right? We're using a Lexicon effects processor, and we're using the AMS delays and things like that. So because of that, producers will start writing down those gear to say, okay, we got such a great recording because he recorded on a Neve 8058 console, whatever. And he used these preamps with these, Telefunken microphones or Newman microphones or whatever. That's going to be the statement. So they start looking and so studios start building this based on producers and artists that was coming from other studios so that became the staple. And so if you didn't have an actual Teletronics LA2A, and if you had a recreation, like when Warm Audio got started and all these clone companies started getting started, people will look at Warm Audio like, that's a fake. That's how the market started. Oh no, you got Warm Audio. Now Warm Audio has proven itself so well. Wait a minute, I'm getting this great sound from Warm Audio, because there are people that would buy the Warm Audio because they just couldn't afford the Universal Audio. They would buy the Warm Audio, and people are like, wait a minute, you getting the great sound using Warm Audio gear? Now its tables have turned. I'll use another example. I'll use one more example. It's kind of like people are driving Hyundais and Kias now, but Hyundai was a laughing joke in the 90s, like the Hyundai Excel. It was like one of the worst cars ever. But now you see Hyundais, Sonatas, and Santa Fe's and all that. And some people still say Hyundais are because they catch on fire, but I'm not going to, because somebody on this channel might be having on Honda and they might get mad at me for talking about a Hyundai Santa Fe. But I'm just saying that Hyundai has come a long way. The same thing with Walmart, even Behringer Gear. Behringer Gear was a laughing joke. Now Behringer has come a long way. They got the act together. But people, because they have bad memories from Behringers, there are a lot of people that just can't get past bad memories. It's like someone that have a bad, they have a Ford or a Chevy they had a bad experience with. Now they will never buy a Ford or a Chevy again because they had that bad experience. I'm like, I always judge it like this. It's like going to a restaurant and you get food poisoning. Was it the restaurant, or was it just they were bad cooks in that particular restaurant? You have to judge it, because some people will go to, like, they went to Wendy's, got sick, now they'll never eat at Wendy's again. I've had bad experiences going to one restaurant and then go to the same restaurant in a different state and it was good. So it's not always the restaurant. So let me read a few more. Johnson, thanks. You're welcome. And then let's see, John says, Mark, have you ever used Behringer FX 2000 reverbs? I got a Behringer FX 2000 in the rack. So I use it all the time. I actually do. I like my Behringer FX 2000. I didn't know you were gone. I didn't know you were gone. Secret Studios. I didn't know. Okay. Let me see. My main says, have you ever used Korg plugins? I have not used Korg plugins. I do have the Korg synthesizer collection called the Korg Collection, which has the Triton Studio, and the Wave Station and all those, but not the plugins. Korg even actually has actual reverb units. I just can't locate them. I've been looking on Reverb because there are a lot of people from Michael Brower and engineers like that swear by some of the Korg effect units. I just wish I could locate some. So yes, it did. Yep. And that Hyundai SUV, the big one, looks like a Range Rover clone, but it looks good. Like there's what's that? I think the Hyundai, they call it the Telluride, or is that the Kia Telluride? And then there's the a Palisade or something, the Kia Palisade and the Hyundai Telluride. That SUV, I don't care what no one says about that Hyundai. The two Hyundais that I think the Hyundai Genesis, I think the Hyundai Equus, and the Hyundai that Telluride are sharp. And I'm telling my business, but I'm not ashamed of it. Like I have a Corvette. It's a C5 Corvette. It's an older Corvette, but I have a C5. But I would have no shame in driving if I had a Hyundai Telluride or one of those. I want a Hyundai Equus. If I could find a good deal on one. I would have no shame driving that. I rented a Hyundai Sonata. It got excellent gas mileage. It had absolutely no problems. Even though there are horror stories about Hyundais. I've never seen it, but then again, like one of the other cars I drive, I have a Cadillac CTS. And I have absolutely no issues with that Cadillac CTS. It's an older one. It's one of the first version CTS, but it runs great. Drive it all the time. So, the Kia Telluride. So it must be the Hyundai Palisade or something like that. I think that's the Hyundai version. They look at it. That's a sharp SUV, in my opinion. So it says, Secret Studio says, would you ever consider guests for your show to share conversation and later? I'm working on what I'm working on is I want to start doing a Zoom sort of deal where I'm going to have other guests and we can I'm working on that. I'm also working with some engineers and buddies so we can all set that up. So that's coming. People don't believe that it's coming, but it's coming. So I will be able to do Zoom things because I want to do guests where we can do more interaction instead of me talking. and people just me reading the comments. I want people to be able to interact. So that's definitely coming. So I'll announce when I'm going to do that. Yeah, definitely do for a Q&A. I definitely want to do that. Oh, my man said, I also think the C8 is the car. Yeah, something. I'm not really big on the mid-engine Corvette. It's a sharp Corvette. I like the C7 better, but that's just me. There's, a lot of people love that C8 Corvette. I just like the C5, the C6, and the C7 Corvettes. That's just me. Those are my favorite body styles. Someone says, Chris says, I want the CTS5V Blackwing. Woo, 640. I think it's 640 horsepower, something like that. I know it's a beast. That's all I can tell you. It's. I would tell anyone they have a CTS5V Blackwing. I don't know who's on here that's a that has a Charger or Challenger Scat Pack, but I tell you what, don't sleep on that CTS5V. So Secret Studio, is that intermittent beeping coming from your stream every few minutes? Not that I know of. It could be, because it is a 2-hour, and sometimes when you're streaming for a long time, YouTube will want to start, because it is eating up broadcasting time. So it might be, who knows, but I'm about to shut it down anyway, because it's been over 2 hours. And it's always great. I love these live streams, because I think this is the best part of the whole entire channel, because instead of me posting a video and people just posting comments, people actually get to interact. So I think that's what I love about doing these live streams. So it might be, I don't know if it's live beeping for other people that are viewing the channel. Y'all can post it. Like I said, I'm gonna be on here for a few more minutes and then I'm gonna shut it down. But yeah, I think the CTS, I say good, because Secret Studio said good, because good on last week, because we appreciate you. Love y'all too. I appreciate it, man. Y'all give me a lot of love on this channel, and the channel's growing. Because we can all relate. A lot of us, being military, being into music, cars, photography, and everything. I mean, I'm into photography heavy as well. I never really talk about photography. Like I said, I'm old school, so we got some people that are old school on here. We got some young viewers. This is always great. That a lot of people tune in. That's why I like to do this every Sunday, to be able to interact. So by the way, I know a few folks who may want to consider for your show. Just got me. Yeah, I'll definitely, like I said, I'm gonna announce it, and we're gonna start a like I said, I'm gonna start doing a Zoom session where we can all see each other, instead of y'all just seeing my mug with my weird looking glasses on YouTube. So he said you'll be 65 on that. So November, happy birthday. I don't really get into politics, because I got my reasons on. I'm not pro-Republican or pro-Democrat or pro-independent or nothing like that. I believe in common sense, and if it makes common sense to me, that's the way I go. If it doesn't make common sense to me, that's the way I don't go. I don't get, some people, they get ramped up with, under Trump or under Biden or, whatever, past presidents and, like this. And I don't really want to get wrapped into all that political stuff, because those become heated debates. I don't know why they become heated debates, but they become heated debates. And let me tell you, politics can be so deadly. They wiped out Kennedy in a limousine in Dallas. That's how crazy people let this stuff. They let politics, get to them that extreme. They resort to violence. It's crazy. I just don't know why I'm involved with someone if you don't live with me in my house, I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned because you're a libertarian. Just, so, because really my paycheck hasn't gone up, whether Democrat or independent or Republican got in office. My paycheck hasn't gone up. Give me $1 million. I say that to anyone that's, they, of course, why would they give me $1 million? They don't know me. So there you go. Say amen. I disavow on all parties and vote for we the people. Yep. It just, I just can't get into some people. They let their blood pressure. I'm like, why are you worried about Trump or Biden? Why? It ain't like you about to break bread with Trump or Biden or Kamala Harris. You could, but for the most part, as long as it don't affect my paycheck. Somebody said, well, we could affect your paycheck to, well, and if it did, what can I do about it? Okay, let me see. So Chris says, when it comes to mixing, why do beats sound so good on your YouTube, or is that a master thing? Mixing, and I would admit, I'm really good at recording. I'm really good at gear. I'm not the best mixer. I can mix, but I'm not the best mixer because mixing requires a lot of creativity, and I only mix what I think works the way I think it's kind of like, am I going to put a delay on this, or am I going to mix in a drum sample there, or am I going to mix in, a reverb unit here? Some people might not choose what I choose, but part of the basic foundations for mixing should be the same. Like, for example, whether I'm coming to an actual console or I'm doing in the box using the DAW's mixer, one thing that's going to work all the time, if you have a DAW that has the ability to create auxiliary channels, buses, and stuff like that, they're modeled to work like an actual real console. So I always generally route and do things as if I'm working on a real console, because I know it's going to sound like that when I'm actually listening to it. So if that makes sense. Then plus I've been recording for 30 years. So I got quite a bit of experience recording. And I know what works and what doesn't work. So if that makes sense. So he says, Dio says, I saw that you like 100 to 150 plugins. What are your 10 favorite plugins? What are your 10 favorite VSTs? My favorite plugin company is IK Multimedia. What made me fall in love with the IK Multimedia is when I saw the T-Rax. Because when I saw the T-Rax, all their gear looked like actual analog gear. They're modeled to look like actual analog gear, and they actually work and function like analog gear. They look like real pieces of gear I've saw in actual racks and studios. So that drew my attention to it. Just like I like Acoustica Audio. I started with a lot of Waves plugins initially, but I always thought some of the Waves plugins, other than the plugins, they were modeled after real gear, but their basic plugins were always a little generic to me. But that's and as far as my 10 favorite, like I always use the LA and 1176 compressor a lot. I use the T-Rax bus compressor a lot. I use the Acoustica Audio. It's called Emthers, it's basically modeled after the AMEC 9098. Love that plugin. I like some of the free plugins, like that It's called Lufticus. It's a free plugin, but it's an amazing plugin. I use that a lot. I use quite a few free plugins actually, but those are some of my favorites, especially IQ Multimedia's T-Rax. I use those the most. Even though I do have a Slate prescription, um, but I other than that, it just depends. I also use SSL plugin. So those are some of my favorites. Let's see, Andre. So when we go to events to drink and party in Barbados, yep, never been to Barbados, but it'd be nice to go to islands. Andre says military sunset, not Reveille. A military sunset. Well, Reveille. Well, Reveille actually is Reveille is really versus they would call it To the Colors and what's the other that was the that was the 5 o'clock. That's when the flag comes down versus Reveille is when the flag comes up. Chris says, "Oh, let me see one more because I'm about to end it. When I make beats and mix, I use FL Studio, but I've been thinking about using Pro Tools or Studio One to mix beats in their DAWs to see if I'm getting a quality things." Let me tell you, generally, you're not going to hear a tremendous difference between FL Studio versus going to Pro Tools or FL Studio for sound quality like you would, because the sound is not really coming from the DAW. It's coming from your AD to DA converter. But I think personally, if you're into pattern making, FL Studio is great for that. But if you're into a DAW, that's going to have, I think I've looked at the FL Studio and I've looked at, not looked at it, working on FL Studio and working Studio One. I like how Studio One and Pro Tools and Cakewalk and Reaper and all the other DAWs, I like the workflows of those better, especially for recording and editing. That's for me. I don't really like FL Studios. It's a learning curve with FL Studio. You really need to know what you're doing in FL Studio. And when you learn FL Studio, it can be a great DAW, but you have to know what you're doing. Especially, I really just don't like FL Studio's mixer. I just do not. But that's just me. Some people have no problem with FL Studio. I just don't like the way the mixer works. But that's just me. But I personally prefer, because the way I started, like I started with Cakewalk 3.0. So I got started in DAWs that way. So it's more of a preference for me. Let me read a few more comments, and then I gotta wrap it up. So Chris says, when I make so DLC, what VSTs do you like for quality sounds to compose or write with? I don't use unless I'm using I like the Chord collection and some of the other VST Pro, like Analog Lab 5, or I might like some of the like if I'm in Reason Studio, I just pretty much use their built-in software plugins for writing music for those instruments. But other than that, I'm recording from my external keyboards, like my Rolands or my chords on my Rolands. That's what I use the most. There's also Synth Anthology. I have that. And sometimes I'll play with VIP software on this computer. It just depends. But I don't have I got so much, it can be overwhelming. Yeah, Chris says, yeah, it's a learning curve, but I've been using FSD. Yeah, so if you've been using it for that long length amount of time, then I'm sure you master it. So things are easy when you know how to use it. But I'm a type of person that I gauge DAWs, I call them VRSs. People know why I call them VRSs. People that have been watching it with me, they know why I call them VRSs. If you've been working, I gauge a DAW on how easy it is for me to load it and how be able to get up and get started and be able to search for tools without me having to spend hours trying to find certain tools that I would have already found in other DAWs. You know, like for example, how to, you know, whatever the case, or how, you know, in other words, because everyone knows when you open up FL Studio, it opens up with the pattern maker, and then you, of course, you got your sequence box and all that, and a lot of times you don't know how to load. Versus if you open up Cubase or Pro Tools or whatever, those are actually more set up like tracks versus setting up pattern. Even though it's pattern, it's tracks, but it's confusing. I don't know how the best way to explain it, but it's just easier for me because all the other DAWs have a common similarity in the workflow, if that makes sense. And FL Studio do not. So my main says, what about Luna? Yeah, Luna is similar to any other DAW like Cubase, Pro Tools, Logic, Cakewalk, Reaper. It's the same, similar. You just got to know where the tools are, but it has generally the same initial workflow. Ableton Live is a little different as well. Ableton Live and FL Studio are the only two DAWs that Ableton Live can have a little bit of a learning curve too. But Cubase, Logic Pro, Cakewalk, Reaper, all the rest of those dolls, they have generally, if you can work Reaper, it wouldn't take you long to learn Luna. If you know how to work in Pro Tools, it wouldn't take you long to learn how to jump into Luna, and vice versa. It didn't take long to really learn to get into Pro Tools or these other DAWs. I was sitting there for hours trying to figure out Ableton Live and FL Studio, and I still haven't figured out FL Studio. And that to me is one of those I like because I'm used to those other DAWs the way their workflows are. So, and then DL says I don't like the look of FL Studio Mixer. I don't like it mix. I don't like it either. I'm just not big on a mixer. But the piano roll and FL Studio is also. Well, you know, most of them are similar as far as the piano roll. Even MPC software can be a little bit of a learning curve if you don't know how to work it. But I got up and running in MPC faster than I did in FL Studio. That's just me. But let me see this. I didn't like Synthology from UVI at all. I feel like they got over for the sounds of that. No, I mean, you know, I don't, like I said, this is not everyone is not going to like everything like me. I don't like mustard on hot dogs. Just because I don't like mustard on hot dogs doesn't mean you should not like mustard on hot dogs. I just don't like the taste of mustard hot dog. That's my analogy to, you're not offending. It's just not everyone likes everything. I like ketchup on my hot dog, not mustard. What else can I say other than I like Analog Lab 5 better than I like the Synth Anthology, and but I really don't use it. And I'll do a video on some of these programs, why I do like them. Sometimes it takes someone showing some of the benefits of something. If you don't really work all the benefits of these, you might not like it. I might do something like that on why I like some of these programs, and you know, I might do that. So, and then Chris said, the reason I had to use FL Studio, it was cheap, couldn't afford a drum machine back. Yeah, I get it. Trust me, I get it. And there are a lot of people that have done amazing stuff with FL Studio. And I'm not going to knock that. There are a lot of people that have done amazing stuff with FL Studio. I just am not big on FL Studio because I like the other DAWs. That's just me. Let me see, Chris. It's real easier after you do your learn. Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. And like I said, it's a learning curve. Yeah, Deal said you don't like mustard on hot dog. I do not. I don't like mustard at all. He said that's a problem, Mark. We need to do an interview. It's kind of like trying to get people to. It's like me. I don't like mustard. I don't like hot sauce. I do not. I do not. When it comes to hot dogs, I either put chili on it or ketchup. That's just me. So like me, I don't use hot sauce at all. I don't like spicy foods at all. Some people look at me like what you don't like? I do not. I don't like hot wings. I don't like that hot. I don't like hot spicy that aftertaste in my mouth when it comes to spicy stuff. That's just me. But if you like mustard and hot dogs, hey, eat away. Oh, he says since Rewire is gone now, is there anything way to link different dolls together? I don't know. I know Reason Studio will allow you to use it as a plugin in other DAWs. I do know that, but I hardly ever do that simply because I already have plugins that I use, so I don't use I only use Reason stuff in Reason, but that's just me. I use Reason as its own standalone DAW. Works fine for me, but that's just me. What he said? What? No hot sauce? There's something wrong with this picture. Hey, that's just okay. It's kind of like I'll put it like this. I'm not big on Trump, but I'm not going to knock people that like Trump. Just like there's some people that don't like Harris. Hey, hey, I'm not going to knock people because I like Harris and you don't. That's why we're allowed to like what we like. It is what it is. So it is, yeah, exactly. Everyone likes what they like. Like me, I don't like the Charger or Challenger. I've never liked the Charger or the Challenger. I don't like the base model. Don't like the Scat Pack. Don't like the, I don't care if it's got a Hemi. I don't care if it's the Hellcat, the Demon. Don't like them at all. Just don't. I got a Corvette and I got a Mustang. I got a Fox body Mustang built. But not everyone likes the Fox body. So it is what it is, Yeah, exactly. Thanks God for open disclosure. It's just, So C-Funk, you coming in late, man. Welcome anyhow, but I'm about to end. I'm about to end in 3 minutes. I'm ending because it's been going on 2.5 hours. I'm about to end it. So like I said, I start this at 8 Central Time. So not everyone can, some people work or other circumstances and things like that. I get it. But yeah, I'm about to end it. Man, but it's great. I'm glad you got a chance to tune in. Yeah, he said Reason Studio 11 and under, as well as FL Studio works with Rewire, but Reason can also load as like I have Reason 11. I want to get Reason 13. They said there's a vast improvement. I think the only thing that was really lacking in Reason was the sequencer portion. They need to be able to do more in the sequencer portion. Because Reason Studio, the concept of it, of being an all-in-one DAW is awesome. Even though technically the other DAWs with having instruments, it's basically the same thing, except Reason gives you, I think Reason Studio gives you the most instrument options out of all those DAWs from what I've seen. I know that Pro Tools really don't have a lot of instruments. I know Studio One has a few. Cakewalk has just a few. Logic only has a few. GarageBand and so forth. But Reason was the idea, but they still have some things that I wish they would improve on. So, oh, he said, don't forget to hit that like button. Yeah, I appreciate it for all that was tuning in. I appreciate everyone that tuned in, hit the like button. I really do. It definitely helps the channel. So, like I said, I'm about to end it because it's going on 2.5 hours. Chris is saying, I know because you're using FL Studio, but he said you're lost when it comes to Reason. I'll put it like this. Reason is basically, if you look at Reason, it's really technically 3 screens. When you open up Reason, you have what they usually start you with the rack screen because they want you to pick something to start using. So they're gonna by default they start you there. If you have dual screens, you can separate certain screens, but that's the concept of Reason. Other than that, it's got your typical sequencing screen where you do all your MIDI and your audio, and it's got your mixing screen where you can actually start mixing the same way in any other DAW. But the one screen is a row of effect processors, instruments, and all that. It's called the rack window, and you just have to pick and choose what you're going to use for your session. That's all really what Reasons really is. You pick and choose what you can use. After that, you go to your sequencer and start sequencing. Once you're done sequencing, you go to your mixing window and start mixing. I know I'm making it sound a little more simpler than that, than what it is, but that's generally what it is. So that's basically if you get Reason Studio, it's going to start you with the rack, and you just have to drag what you want to use. And after that, you can there's shortcuts like F5, F6, F7 that'll switch you to screens. After that, you go to your regular sequencer window, you just start sequencing like any other DAW. Then after that, you got to make that's really all it is. So, but it's built in. So he said you don't like the piano roll. It's small. I hardly ever use the piano roll unless I'm doing unless I'm doing slight editing things. I really don't use the piano roll a lot. I don't use the piano roll in any DAW. But that's just me. So some people have Contact. I don't have Contact. Because I have Analog Lab 5, and I have Chord Collection, I have Synth Anthology, and I have some other VIP software and other DAWs. But I mainly because I'm using a lot of my external synths, so I don't have a lot of VST synth. I have some, but anyhow, that's gonna wrap it up. I really do appreciate everyone tuning in. I gotta go because it's late, real late. But like I said, I'll be here the same time next Sunday. I appreciate everyone that tunes in weekly. This is always fun, and it is good to see that y'all all are here. Some that are tuning in a little bit late, but that's all right. You came and you joined, so it's good to see y'all. Well, once again, I'm going to see y'all next week, and we'll do this again next week. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'm out.